Ready.
Are you ready? We're going to do
Ready.
it? Well, I fired up the recording. So here we go.
I saw.
Well, hello, Mr. Matt.
Hi.
Hello, Internet. So we're here to talk about you just put out your platform today. So
Yep.
I thought it'd be good to ask you some questions about it and you can
Sure.
explain it because I think I saw it. When did you send this to me 2 days ago?
Yeah, you had a little preview for it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess I'll read through and ask you about it. I'll just go right down the line on your issues. So your first section is transparency.
Yes.
So let's see what you have in there. First thing you have is live stream board meeting through USPSA website and catalog database for member review in the future.
Yep.
Is there, I mean, the technology obviously exists to do this. Are there any
100%.
impediments in the bylaws to doing this?
Not that I can see. I think the president can do this fully open, like without any objection from the board. I guess only objection could be that the board just doesn't show up. And then no meetings can happen, but I mean, that would be the only objection I could see.
All right. Create and live stream monthly member meeting where members would get updates from all employee directors, committee chairs, area directors, and president. Yeah,
it just goes along with transparency to see what the organization has going on and to see what the board members have going on and what's actually happening. At this time, I would like to present financial reports from the DFO currently.
Is there, so the next item you have is provide membership monthly accounting of organization financials. Is that necessary every month?
Why would it not be?
Well, I don't know why it'd be necessary every month unless you think there's something going on that people need to see.
I think it just makes sense with the size of the organization and the amount of money in it that the members have access to what their money is being spent on and they can see it.
Okay, well, provide approved budget for organization to members is the next thing you have.
Yeah, I think this is big because in the past, they have approved negative budgets from the organization. So they would be dipping into the reserve funds that the organization has. And I personally feel like that's not a good path.
Okay.
And I think the members should be able to see that and to see who's actually voting on that. And then what board members agree with that and everything. So that'd be part of the live streaming, and the members can actually see how their representatives are representing them.
Okay. Let's go to the next one. Expand committees to bring in outside experts to advise board of directors.
Yeah, so this is pretty simple. The big one, that the audit and the finance committee, where we bring in outside CPAs. Obviously, there's a concern about non-disclosures and stuff like that, right? Which anybody brought in would have to sign because they'd be getting proprietary info from the organization. But if you brought in an outside CPA to audit the financials, they can look at it where they have no financial interest. They're not being paid by the organization as an employee or a board of director member or a president or anything like that. So they could actually get a look at how the organization's finances are being done and make sure they're on the up and up.
Do you have some reason to think they're not?
Do we really know though right now?
Well, no, they have the publicly required disclosures, like the more detailed expense reports. I haven't seen. I mean, I've heard that there's potentially issues, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, everything out in the open makes everything clearer, right? So there should be no questions. Like, I have questions now, right? You have questions. You've heard rumors. If all this was out in the open, that would dispel all those rumors.
That's okay. Fair enough. I'm sure the man on the board's going to love you. All right. F, support DNROI to redevelop popper calibration procedure and then push out 3 different solutions for membership feedback before implementation. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You don't like the popper calibration change?
I never agreed with the way they adjusted it last fall based on my no vote. And then I don't think it's actually been reevaluated right now. So are we just going to sit by and say we've adjusted popper calibration, so now it's good forever, or should we actually put 3 different solutions out to get member feedback on and actually process through matches and see how they all work out, and then maybe none of those actually work and the current way we have it is good enough and as good as it can get. But I think we've all seen how that there's room for improvement for sure.
For sure. Okay. Your next section, integrity. Work with DIT to create a survey system on USPSA website. Who DIT is the director of IT?
Yeah, Rick Brotzel.
Okay, so you want a survey system for what? What kind of surveys?
So any of the hosted matches by USPSA should mandatory send out a survey after the match to see how the customers, which are the members that actually shot the match, liked it and what could be improved or anything like that. So we don't get any feedback now except for posts on social media or emails that come in or any of the sponsors that give feedback. Besides that, there's no actually way to quantify how good we're actually doing, and I want to change that.
Okay. So this goes along with the next thing you have is provide a solution for all match directors to solicit and organize feedback from members in attendance through USPSA's website. So this should be for all levels of match. You want to make this
would just
tool
be an
available.
Expansion on the survey system where if, say, I'm hosting a match at Mill Creek and I'm the match director, I can go in there and click a button and say, get member feedback from this match. And members can go in there that actually shot the match, can go in and tell me how I'm doing.
Right.
And then that would be hosted on the USPSA website. So the first step is to create the survey system. And then the next step is expand it out beyond just the hosted events.
Okay. So the next item you have is adhere to an uncompromising removal of cheaters found in organization. Never again allow blatant cheating to humiliate the organization. I'm guessing this is about the Tony Cowden situation.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
It's real simple in my mind. If you allow cheaters in the sport, it no longer becomes a sport or anything that you can keep score at because there's always questions there. And I think the org has moved in the right direction on this quite a bit since I've been on the board since September. If you go back and look at the minutes, it's pretty clear that when it's been brought up, there's been no questions about it. And we also, Insights put some stuff out about the Pineland Club and all that.
Well, I mean, I did see some there. It was kind of interesting how just changing the classifier setup a little bit did seem to have a big impact on hit factors.
Yeah, it has a huge impact on it.
So
I almost said huge factor for the hit factor.
Yeah. A lot of people get a lot out of the classification system. They really like it. So if there's a few clubs skewing hit factors, that's obviously not a good thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Okay, you want to freeze all competition and competitor changes on rules until 2024.
Yep.
Why?
So the date on there is pretty interesting because it's the first date of the next full cycle president would be in office.
Mm-hmm.
So I believe the members should have input on who's in the office and the direction that they want to go. During this short time for the special elected president, my math is, at most he can be in office for 18 months. It's more likely he'll actually only be in the office for 15 months before the new person on the regular cycle will actually be in office. So a lot of this comes down to what you can do in a certain amount of time that you're in there and what you actually have effect on.
Why freeze the rule changes?
Well, it's easily stability. We need to stop making changes, get member input, use that same survey system and see what members want in there, what they don't want in there, or how we could better change them.
Well, you're saying the rules have been changed. Well, I'm guessing you'd say the rules have been changed too frequently, too often, too much. Just the whole thing.
What year, or actually what quarter can you think of last that the rules weren't changed in?
Yeah, I don't know.
Years way too long because they change them like multiple times a year.
All right. The next item on there, work with local match directors to develop and publish a local club guide and best practices resource to help with club setup.
Yeah, so what I'm thinking on this is geographically, what I do in Kansas City doesn't make sense for somebody on the East or West Coast to do for setting up and running a club. Like getting a club started off the ground. They have a range that has 4 bays on it. How do you go in there and start a match? Or how do you take an existing match and make it better? So basically, this would be a guide where we get input from all the geographical areas, because people that have 200 people at their local matches on one of the coasts, when we have 50 to 70 in the Midwest and don't have any capacity issues.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, I mean, you're painting with a broad brush, but yeah, there's capacity to some places and
Also
other places
about how do you tier the setup where you don't have one person doing all the setup all the time, and you actually have contingencies in there, so you don't have everything relying on one person, and then they get burned out and then they just fall off, and then the club just disappears. It's a big issue.
So where would you put this guide?
On the website.
All right, well, fair enough. All right, so you want to work with stage designers all around the country to develop and publish a stage design and setup resource guide. So that's the same thing, but with stage design.
Yep,
basically.
100%. Yeah.
All right, and your long-term goals, you have add term limits for all elected area directors and president.
Yeah, I think this is beyond the special election term. I don't think this can be done within the 15 months that if I do get elected for this office will happen.
Right.
These would all be bylaw changes.
You'd be like pushing for this.
Yeah, I would work towards this during my term.
All right. Add a process for members to recall an elected area director or president. So what certain number of signatures to initiate some?
Certain number of signatures. People brought up like how it's going to get paid for, stuff like that.
Okay.
And the reasoning behind this is, what if you had a area director that ran unopposed and then put something out that the members of the area were very against in how they did things? You have no way for members to actually remove that person from office. You have to rely on the other members of the board to do it, which they don't answer to the members of that area, so they have no reason to remove that person from office.
Well, I mean, I guess unless they didn't like him, but I mean, I get what you're saying. You want a member-driven way to...
Yeah, I'm not saying one person should say we should remove, I'll just use me as an example, Area 3 director. Shouldn't have one person be able to say that. That makes no sense. There should be a clear path and clear process on how this happens. And that should be in the bylaws. And I don't know why it is not.
All right. Change bylaws to have DNROI be an elected position. The membership to have representation on who DNROI is. I could see the big bone of contention here, and probably something you're flexible on, would be the candidate pool for this.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's where the conversation has to happen to start with.
Yeah. So what would you
just
set
go
it
with
to?
RMIs, there's I think 8 or 11. I think it's 8. If you go with RMs, there's 60 or 70. If you go with CROs, there's 1,000, and if you go with ROs, there's like 3,000. So determining where that pool comes from, the people eligible to run it, is where the big question mark is for me.
Yeah. Well, why do you think it'd be good to have DNROI be elected?
So, I mean, we've all seen the shift in how they're making everything easier and more open for people to compete and participate in the sport, right? And if people don't like,
you mean the general loosening of equipment rules?
General loosening of everything.
I mean, yeah, some other stuff is loosened up too, I suppose, but
yeah. So I just think members should have a say in everything. And so the members should be able to elect that person. They should be able to put their platform out the way they want the path of NROI to go, and let the members vote on it.
And that would be a total shift in I guess the incentives for DNROI being held accountable to the members. You probably get some behavior changes doing that.
Yeah, 100%.
That'd be a
I
nice
think
way
you
of
would.
saying it. All right, nationals. So you got to do something with nationals. You want
Yep.
to host one large nationals for all handgun divisions toward the end of the year. Towards the end of the year, I get the one large nationals thing. I think a lot of pro shooters aren't going to like, and I think people might. Well, there's going to be less slots available. So
Technically,
obviously
there
that's a
will be
limitation for
less
doing
number of
this.
slots available if you compare it to having 4 separate nationals like we're having in 2022. Now, the question is how many unique people are going to attend those matches or have attended matches in the past?
All
Now,
right,
if that
so
number is the same, if you have, say, 600 people, unique people attend nationals every year, and you have a one large nationals that has 720 slots in it, you're actually opening it up for more people to attend the match than less.
I get what you're
This is
saying,
not
but you'd have
something
to
I'm.
check out those numbers, right?
Yeah, I'm going to look those numbers up and find that out.
So you're open to, I mean, I
I'm
suppose
open
you're
to
open
not
to
doing
change.
this for sure.
You're open to change any of this, but
Yeah.
an easy pivot would be then do, instead of one large nationals, you do like the back-to-back.
Yeah, back to back is a pretty good way to do it. That's how it's happened in a lot of the previous years. The problem with that is you go from a 4 or 5 day match to a 7 day match.
Right, 3
where
days, day
3
off, 3
days,
days.
break day, 3 days. Yeah.
All right. I mean, I don't really have a very strong opinion about it. With
I don't either.
the
I think
20,
it's definitely something to talk about. I'm not
of
dead set
course,
on one large nationals.
the 2014 nationals that
Yep.
Phil did when it was just
28
everything
stages.
combined. Yeah, that was really cool. I really
Yeah.
liked that. But then the next year when he had just a standalone for production, and that was like a huge ass nationals, that was pretty cool too.
Yeah, there's pluses and minuses to all of this. I think
Yeah.
one of the big things is no matter what, you have to look at the money that it takes to put these matches on the ground. And if the entry fees don't cover it, those costs have to go against something else, which just looking at a broad brush, the main income for the org is the membership dues. And should the organization and do the members know that the membership dues that they're giving to the organization are helping supplement and pay for nationals? And if the members are fine with that, no problem. We should do it.
Okay.
I just don't think that's known.
Well, I mean, the pro shooters are gonna not like this, I think.
So why would they not like it?
They get more bites at the apple if there's more national events, so potentially can win more titles. You at least get more shots.
Yeah. That there is some people out there talking that if you have one national event, you can't award who's best in every division. So if we do that, should we have 8 different nationals? Does that
Are you
make
asking
sense?
me? I think having a nationals for every division is too much. Like too much. I mean, the more nationals you put on, the more events the organization's responsible. Kind of like the more that energy to make it a good event gets diluted.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to strike a balance somewhere.
I don't think a lot of the people that are providing feedback on this have seen a big nationals and see what it actually could be, comparing it to the prestige or the grandiose scale of world shoots and how big those are and how many people they get in those. Those are obviously 6-day events, which I don't think the US is ready for that, especially at a nationals. That's too many. I'm thinking 4-day match, 28 stops, so 7 stops per day, and you shoot 28 stages. Real quick math, that's 12 people per squad, 2 flights, 28 stages times 4. Nope, I did that wrong. 720. So you'd have spots for 720.
Well, I guess we'll have to see like how many unique people really want to go.
Yeah.
So I take it from this, you don't see a whole lot of value in like repeat entries or the same person doing 2 or 3 nationals. You don't really care about that.
I don't care if they do it or don't. like, I'm not actually totally set on this. I just think it's a good idea. I don't think it's been done since 2014.
It
So I
hasn't.
think it's time to come back and actually try it and see where people are at.
All right. Choose adequate ranges to host national level events. I'm guessing this is you talking about Talladega.
100%. Talladega is not adequate to host a nationals. They do not have enough bays. If they had 6 more bays, be 100% fine.
Okay, fair enough. Require aftermatch surveys for all USPSA hosted events. I mean, I think we talked about that.
Yeah, talked about that earlier.
All right, so to Steel Challenge, RO course done through online learning management system.
Yeah, with talking to people over the last year, the number one thing is people that shoot Steel Challenge only do not want to go to a range officer class where they talk about mostly USPSA rules. It doesn't make sense to teach a person that is only going to RO a Steel Challenge match how to use an overlay. It's never done at Steel Challenge. There's no reason to do it.
And that's something you hear from the Steel people?
Yeah, 100%. That's the number one thing people ask that I have talked to that have brought up.
All right. The next thing, allocate slots to what the Steel Challenge?
World Speed Shooting Championship.
Okay, through slot policy based on performance at previous nationals, area matches, and activity within sections. Is that different? Like that's not done now?
No, it is 100% open entry besides sponsor slots, and everything I'm hearing and saw for the match this year in 2022, it was a nightmare. Practice score failed. The match doesn't actually have enough slots, and the allocation would be literally duplicate how the current USPSA matches are. We have the formula, we have the process. Why don't we use it?
Okay.
And I would implement that like next year 100% right away. Easily done.
All right. And then you want to move the Steel Challenge towards the end of the year, the championship match.
Yeah, I think the national world matches should be a culmination of the year's events towards the end of the year. Obviously can't have everything the first 2 weeks of October or the last 2 weeks of September. But if you put certain matches in the right areas on the right ranges that are not actually restricted by time constraints, you could easily hold all the matches in September and October.
Wait, all the matches? What matches?
Nationals, World Speed. You have the 2-gun PCC.
Okay. Yeah, that's on here too. You want to host PCC and 2-gun nationals in back-to-back format. Yeah.
Yeah, I think PCC is such a different enough division that you have to test different things with a PCC than with a handgun. If you build a match for handgun stages, typical handgun ranges and target difficulty, that is not actually testing the ability and the use of the PCC to what it mostly should be used for. I'm not 100% sold on this. If people say they want to shoot their rifles at handgun targets and distances and difficulty, fine, we'll do that. No problem.
So you mean instead of doing the PCC in a back-to-back with 2-gun nationals, you just throw it into the hand, like however you cut up the handgun.
Yeah, I think if you have all 8 there, I don't think you could do one big event because it's going to get watered down pretty significantly at that point.
All right. Let's see what else is there here. Multi-gun. Work with match directors and competitors to further develop common rule set and classification system for multi-gun. I think the key to that's the classification system, right?
I think so too. If we just take and look at how Steel Challenge expanded so much after they implemented a classification system in that, so people could be compared and shoot against like skilled shooters. We saw once that was put in, Steel Challenge just took off like a rocket ship. And this is already being done. I know Jake is working on this, so it's not something that's 100% not being done right now. But I think we can expand it like we did with the multi-gun rule changes earlier this year.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing to do if you're if you want to do multi-gun stuff. You want to create a specific multi-gun committee, including people outside the BOD. So I'm guessing you have some people that you'd want to talk to about multi-gun issues, huh?
I've already talked to some of them, so yes. Yep.
All right. And you want to host a Rifle and Shotgun Nationals Championships to qualify teams for IPSC World Shoots. So I'm guessing this is to solve the kind of the slot distribution problem.
Yeah, easily. And there's no reason we shouldn't do it now. Now, do they need to be a 3-day national event with only 100 people at it? No. But if you have a day-and-a-half format and get 100 people through however many stages that test all the appropriate stuff for those platforms, we should be able to do that no problem.
And I'm guessing that only have to be every third year. If you're doing it for IPSC World Shoots, not that you wouldn't. I don't.
Yeah, I mean,
we haven't discussed it.
I would actually probably do it every 2 years and then off. But honestly, if there's enough attendance and it makes sense, what would hurt if we did it every year? There are disciplines within USPSA. We should actually have matches for them.
Yeah.
And if our rule set is holding that back, we need to adjust the rule set.
Yes. I'm just reading through the stuff on Facebook. Like if there's any. Is there a specific reason you want the recall option for the board of directors?
Well, just like I said earlier, it's if a elected officer runs unopposed, they automatically get in the office. And then if they do something that the members don't like, they're stuck with that director for 4 years. Or they have to convince 7 other board members that aren't from their area to remove them, which that'll never happen.
Well, I mean, it might happen. I could see you getting punted if you keep being annoying. How do you value the input of industry? I'm just reading off the Facebook questions. I'm sorry. How do you value the input of industry members and sponsors, and how are their voices heard? If we are not collaborating with the industry, are we alienating USPSA from longtime supporters and sponsors?
You have to take their input. You don't have to do 100% of what they say, though. You have to take their input as input and figure out the best course of action.
I think most of the industry doesn't really give a shit about USPSA, truthfully.
It's honestly such a small portion of the industry that unless there's someone actively within the company that participates in the sport, then most people don't actually know it exists.
Yeah. Do you think USPSA should get more involved in multimedia broadcasting? If so, why? And to what extent?
So I've been thinking about that question since it got put up there.
Yeah.
I think USPSA should have in-house people that can do videos and production. So we shouldn't have to rely on the outsourcing all our media to media companies that we have to pay for. If we hired somebody that could cut up videos and put them on YouTube and put them on Facebook, we should be able to do that with people that are hired in-house.
It'd be, I mean, what do you mean paying other companies? Do they pay other companies now? Or do they pay for media production now?
Yeah.
Is it a lot, or can you say?
I think it's a pretty significant number, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you get the right guy who's talented, they can do a lot just by, elbow grease, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, I think you answered a lot of this. Oh, Matt, there you are.
Yeah, I hit the wrong button on accident.
Okay, to the extent outsiders are brought onto committees, who selects them? How are they vetted? Are they compensated? What voting rights
committees
do they
aren't
have?
compensated.
No, they're not compensated. Yeah, you talked
I believe
about
the board of directors would vet them.
They would
based
be vetted,
on the need.
Vetted by the BOD, and they'd have to sign a non-disclose.
Yeah, it's pretty simple.
Yeah, they don't vote on shit.
We're not the first nonprofit board in the world or the U.S. to bring outside people in to help them with stuff.
Well, do you anticipate any other questions about this?
Oh, I'm sure I will. Yeah, get on there, get on the YouTubes, and make some comments. I'll get on there and answer them, or we can have a follow-up conversation on this. So,
Well, Matt, it's good you're doing something positive, putting on a platform instead of just, being all negative all the time. I guess that's me, isn't it?
I've heard that.
Such a dickhead. All right, Matt. Well, thank you. I'm going to title this Howler Monkey Agenda or something. Matt Hopkins reveals the Howler Monkey Agenda. How's that sound?
Sure.
Yeah, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh my God.